Dilmi Rupasara, and I'll be one of the spokespeople for you all today. I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. We'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the Migraine Foundation Australia to Brain Health for All, a program dedicating to improving medical awareness within the wider Australian public. The Migraine Foundation is the first migraine and brain health specific registered charity established in Australia and works to educate the public and healthcare professionals about migraines, their impact on individuals' lives, and the importance of proper diagnosis and treatment. In today's session, we will be discussing the importance of brain health overall, as well as methods we can all use to look after and care for our brains. The program brought to you today is only a teaser for upcoming events that we already have prepared for you. This includes our next event on World Brain Day, which is on the 22nd of July. For the 10th time, people from all over the world will come together to celebrate this day through the local leadership from our very own Professor Tissa Wijeratna. But more on this later on.
All right, hello everyone, I'm Janeth. I'll be your other MC for today. First, a few housekeeping measures. Please switch off or silence your mobile phones and try to avoid taking photos, though you're most welcome to take them near the media wall and banners later on. Toilets are at the same level as everything else outside the auditorium, and don't forget to sign up for our Steps for Migraine campaign and the Migraine Foundation so we can make a difference together. Now, on to the business end of the symposium. We hope to bring you a memorable event that promotes better brain health for all of you. We'll entertain your questions at the end when we have an open forum, and you'll also hear about an important clinical trial on post-COVID issues, particularly post-COVID neurological syndrome. Feel free to pick up a brochure about that from the Migraine Foundation table. We're also delighted to announce the presence of Chief Investigator for that, Professor Don Campbell, here in the audience, who Professor Wijeratne will introduce to you all in the open forum. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Kosala Rupasara, who will give a brief overview of our program for today.
Thanks, Dilmi and Janith. My name is Dr. Kosala Rupasara. I'm one of the GPs from eastern suburbs from here. Just a brief introduction of today's program. Today's program has 3 sessions, and first sessions will be patients talking about their life story, and this session, what I like you to mainly concentrate about the difficulties patients go through when they have some diseases affecting their brain function, and how difficult it is for their life and difficulties for their family members and others. And after each discussion with patient, Professor Tissa may have a little chat with the patient or have a small discussion about that condition. And the second session is about from our medical specialties, and today's discussions about the brain health mostly focusing on non-medical approach to help your brain function and improve your brain function in a way like exercise, for example, and then music, and also mindfulness and stress release and things like that. So that is the second session. So that session I like you to focus mostly on what day-to-day life you would change to improve your brain function. You don't need to have a big expensive test or medication to have a very healthy brain. Very simple things you can do in day-to-day life, like what we all did earlier, 1.5 hours of walking. And we definitely have improved a lot of brain function improvement of that simple walk, like that. So you will learn about that. The last session of today is our open forum. that's where we will, whatever questions you have from today's discussions or presentations, you can keep them, and we can all have a panel discussion about your questions and whatever you want to discuss about today's program. That's how today's program is going to run. So without wasting your time, I will pass again to Dilmi to introduce our first speaker.
I would first like to introduce two stories from two people that have experienced the impact and struggles of brain health. It is one thing to hear of particular conditions and situations through speeches like what we have planned for you today, but to experience it firsthand is something completely different, which not all of us can or will ever understand. It can be difficult to share such personal experiences, which is why we deeply thank both Stephen and Dina for coming here today to share your stories with us. I would first like to invite Dina to share her story.
Thank you so much. I'm always very short for these stands. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Tissa, it's always a pleasure. All my tippy toes, I hope you can all hear me okay. So my name's Dina, for those of you who haven't met me. I'm a neuroscientist, and I have had the pleasure of meeting Professor Tissa through my PhD days. I did a PhD in neuroscience, so studied the brain, but couldn't figure out my own brain when it was always in pain. Being a PhD student, I always normalised just not being well all the time because we were working so hard all the time. And so having migraines and headaches were normal for me, and having my mum suffer them too, it was just normal for us just to go through Nurofen and Panadol weekly. That was just like part of the daily shop, the weekly shop. And then one day I submitted my PhD thesis, and I thought, it's stress-free, and met Tissa, had already known Tissa. But I started counting my migraine days, and through the relationship with Tissa, I started being more and more aware of these migraine days, and realised I had 41 migraine days in a row. And I was like, okay, this is not normal. And my friends around me didn't quite understand. Like they would be like, oh yeah, like I've had a headache before, but nobody quite got it. And I must say, besides my mum, like she understood because she also had the same thing. If anything, my mum had a worse condition. She'd always be like bedridden from them, or actually, in fact, I must say she would always power through them. Mum's just amazing. They just get through the day. They just manage to do things. Anyway, I still didn't think to seek treatment because my understanding of the brain, although I was studying it, I just thought there was nothing I could do. I would just keep overusing my medication, and my lifestyle I thought was quite well, besides the fact that I wasn't sleeping much because I was doing a PhD and working all these different jobs. I was exercising 5 to 6 times a week and socialising with friends, and my mental health was quite good, drinking a lot of water, eating well. And then one day I finally decided to seek help and formally asked Tissa desperately to help me because I started a new job and I could not keep working effectively. My career was very important to me as an early career researcher. I actually was here at the Florey. I wanted to do the best I could. When I start a job, I give it my all, and I was limited very much by my migraine days. And for people who didn't get migraines, those people in my lab, I couldn't keep telling them, sorry, I just can't do this because I have a headache. They don't get it. And even if they did get it, they might get it once or twice a week, but every day, it wouldn't be acceptable, it wouldn't be feasible. And so my lab head, who was a very ambitious woman, she was compassionate, but I just couldn't keep using the same excuse, and so I just kept it in. I didn't tell her. So I would open up to my mum because she understood. Tissa, of course, he understands more than anyone. And I didn't really have, although I'm in the field of medicine and people around me were in that field as well, I didn't think that I was going to get better. But one day, Tissa, I sat in his clinic and he said, "Don't worry, Dina, like this is one of those things that you can't help, so there's no point stressing about it. You guys all know Tissa, very positive, very black and white." And I've been, being treated by Tissa for a little while now, and I have been better. I still get headache days, but it's nothing like before. And my headache-free days are definitely more than my headache days, and my life is just so much better. But I'll never forget the days that that wasn't my life. And for people who don't get migraines, who don't get headaches, thank God, like your life is great. But for people who do get it, you can't explain it to people who don't. And you wake up and it's just like your head is so heavy and there's nothing you wouldn't do to make it better. And what's really hard is that you look well. People see you and you're glowing. Some days the makeup helps. You look well, you're healthy, you're young, you go to the gym every day, you do your thing, you've got this great job, you finished your PhD, the highest in your field, but you're struggling every single day. So Tissa, thank you. That's all, thanks.
I would now like to invite Stephen to share his story with us.
Hi everybody, thanks very much for having me along and allowing me to talk about my my situation. 7 years ago, basically this month, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I had a major anxiety attack 5 years before, and unbeknownst to me, I now realise it was related, and I suffered from bad dreams and things like that as well prior to it, which is one of the hallmarks of Parkinson's, and it was a difficult disease to diagnose. Process of elimination, looking for MS, cardio problems. I had chest pains that used to be relieved by just sitting down for 5 minutes and it'd go away. And my father had Parkinson's, and I was tuned into the disease a little bit, and wasn't that surprised when the neurologist finally diagnosed it. But one thing I've made sure that I wasn't going to do was what my dad did when he had it. He basically withdrew from the world and sort of became a couch potato for many years. And I was determined not to do that, and I haven't let it change my life at all. I continued to do all the things I used to do as best as I could, and I was determined to fight it. I wasn't going to let it beat me. And not only that, I love to sing, so I joined the choir, community choir, and I still do that, although it's getting difficult to manage, but the treatments that are available are fabulous, and enables you to continue your life the way you used to. There's a part of Parkinson's that people don't see. They see me normally, they can't tell I've got it when I just walk down the street. That's because the treatment is so effective. But every day I have to wait for my medication to kick in, and during that period I can't do much. I suffer from dystonia in my feet in the morning, and it responds to the medication quite well, but that takes an hour to kick in. So everything has to be managed around that sort of situation. People don't see it. Where am I going with this? Yeah, so the other thing I do is I exercise a lot. I've always exercised. I've used to swim regularly and run and cycle, and I still keep riding the bike. I joined a gym. I exercise as much as I possibly can every day, and I believe that keeps it, that slows the progression down. I'm not letting it beat me. And the other thing is that I think singing, one of the things that happens with people with Parkinson's is your voice tends to weaken after a while, and I love to sing so much. I'm hoping that keeps it going. it's a great excuse to have a sing anyway, if nothing else. Yeah, and the latest thing that my disease has progressed to a point now where dystonia is not very easy to manage. There's not a lot of treatments for it. But there's one major one that does work well, and it's deep brain stimulation, which I'm now considering, which is apparently very efficacious for dystonia and the tremor side of Parkinson's. Doesn't help in some other areas like anxiety, that sort of thing, but it definitely helps with the motor symptoms, which is one of the debilitating things I find with Parkinson's. And yeah, that's my story.
Thanks, Dean and Stephen, for your kindness to give your stories to others, so others can learn from those. I will like to ask Tissa to come here. Probably he knows you two very well by treating you two. And there's two stories into this one. One is a young girl having very young age, having this difficulty debilitating her social life and the function. The other one, different age group, but it's a progressive disease, which is good. He knows that he's going to sometime get worse, and he needs to plan of that. So this is the difficulty and complexity of brain disorders. You want to talk something about that?
I think, first of all, Stephen is not one of my direct patients. We came to know each other through mutual interests of looking at benefit of music in Parkinson's disease through electronic email, and we came to know each other physically today. One thing that is moving is both the stories got tears in my eyes. They were not crocodile tears, they are real tears. With me, you basically, what you see, what you get. This is what get us going on a daily basis. This is what is get us not being seen, the so-called burnout that you hear in and day out. It is your heroism and your strength, your courage, which is not only get us paid, but getting us keep working hard and trying to find solutions. That had always been the case in medicine. It is now, and it will be generations to come. So thank you so much for being brave and sharing your stories, knowing that someone somewhere is recording this and being going to be kept for the rest of existence of humanity. Coming back to your question, Kosala, the brain is such a fascinating organ in the body. What intrigued us few years back, before we established World Brain Day, is how very little we draw attention to this amazing organ. It impacts just every 1 in 3 of us in one way or the other. You and me both could well be having Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's dementia without having an absolute clue about that at this point of time. Yet, almost 90% of some of these brain disorders can be prevented, but the amount of attention that we ourselves put into prevention, including ourselves, is very little. And it is important that we talk about these things and work on them. Obviously, just like two human beings are not different, not the same to each others. You and me, we are both married, we both are parents of children. I'm sure we both felt that before they were born, that we were going to work it out. They will have personalities of me and my wife, in your case, you and your wife. And then little we knew that they were nothing like us when they were born and when they were growing when they were growing up. So we are different from each other, but that difference brings strength to the table. Similarly, when our brain get unwell, they behave differently. No two patients with Parkinson's disease are the same as no two patients with migraine are the same. Obviously, we as healers or clinicians supporting their journey has to accept that and try and help them to live well with these disorders. I always tell my patients that, yes, you can have Parkinson's disease, but we are not going to let that disease have you. Yes, you have migraine, but we are not going to let that disease have you. We are going to make that a tiny part of your life, and we are going to let your larger part of life run the show. The reason that I would never get fed up in the field that I have chosen is I force myself to go to sleep basically on every night because there are interesting things that I could do if I stay up further long, because the human brain and things that affect human brain continue to fascinate me, just as it did as a third-year medical student, just as it did as a primary school or the high school science student. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, Tissa. That's a very important message he was giving about importance of looking after your brain, because you just heard how difficult for somebody to function and how hard they have to work to be normal once you have some sort of illness. And so the next, with that note, I like to ask Dilmi to introduce our next speaker. Basically, as I said earlier, Tissa will give a brief idea about how the brain and brain function and how it works, and the others will be followed with the talk about your day-to-day life, what little things you can do to change and prevent certain brain conditions coming to you.
Tissa Wijeratne is a senior neurologist, professor in neurology, director, academic in medicine, and the head of the Department of Neurology and Stroke at Western Health. He has a number of senior leadership roles locally, regionally, and globally. Tissa is a proficient publisher and accomplished international speaker with his translational research in clinical neurology, generating more than 300 publications, 148 invited presentations, and has more than 97,000 citations. Tissa masterminded the birth of the Australian and New Zealand Headache Society in 2014 in collaboration with 4 of his colleague founder members. He also masterminded the birth of the James Lance Peter Goadsby Annual Migraine Oration and Symposium 2018. He is also the founder of Migraine Foundation and co-founder of the Australian Institute of Migraines. Please give a warm welcome to Professor Tissa Wijeratne.
So the slides move this way and highlight this.
Thank you for those kind words, and I'm going to talk a little bit about brain health to set the scene so that you can get more useful tips later on. Let's see whether we can move further. So, this is it. This is the most fascinating organ in your body and in my body. This is the central processing unit. This is what generated late fabulous Michael Jackson to be who he is, and your famous sports stars, your most popular politicians, your famous actors, actresses, and you yourself in particular. Obviously, you already figured out that I talk too much. I wasn't when I was a child, but nowadays I do. That is because, as you can see, my brain has allocated much larger part to the mouth and lips and face. So you do talk a bit. I put one of the other fascinating parts into the picture also, the eye. The human eye, which is actually the window to the brain, is basically decide almost 90% of our behavior. If you're married or if you have a partner, when you go and see them at the end of the day, if they are cross with you, they don't have to open their mouth to express it. The moment that you see their face, you figure it out by yourself. That is because vision drives 90% of our behavior. as human beings. Then there are small nerves which control our arms and legs, which is known as peripheral nervous system. Altogether, this is what make us as living beings, human beings. And you should know this, and we should protect it so that we can live well during our time on this planet, hopefully protecting it and leaving it to the next generations also. If I still not convince you to be interested in brain health, this is the bad news, whether we like it or not. 1 in 3 of us are having a brain disorder, such as a common thing or uncommon thing. There are well over 400 plus brain and nervous system disorders affecting our health. Out of them, at this point of time, we have Professor Don Campbell here. We believe that there are probably estimated over 100 million cases of long COVID that we described as post-COVID-19 neurological syndrome in the early stages of pandemic. About 50 million cases of dementia, about 12 million the people with Parkinson's disease, about 3 million people with multiple sclerosis. As you heard throughout the walk, over 1 billion with B people with migraine, over 2 billion with a B tension type headaches affecting our health. So brain disorders are common. The key thing is majority of these disorders, including Parkinson's disease, even as we learn, we believe significant chunk of this can be prevented. So we need to talk about them. Stroke, nearly 90% of strokes can be prevented. For migraine and headache disorders, we have really effective preventative algorithms and protocols and management options that we still need to take to the community. And the rehabilitation options are available. No nation put their finances more to disability management than their public health if we get preventative approaches and appropriate management options right. We need to work on all these things. Now let me take you back to definition of health. What is health? You might say that, well, health means I don't have an illness. I am healthy. Actually, when World Health Organization defined health in 1947, way before I was arriving to this world, they clearly defined health as not mere absence of disease, but complete social, psychological, and physical well-being, wellness. So even in 1947, World Health Organization recognized the importance of brain health in general health. You are talking about complete well-being, wellness, physical health. Complete well-being and wellness doesn't come from your foot or right ear or fingers. They come from your brain. However, it took a lot more longer than that for us to come up with a definition for brain health. Can anyone tell me when we define brain health? We are supposed to be the smartest animal in the planet. 2019. This year, the brain health was defined only this year. And this is it. It's a very complicated definition, and it basically, the idea is brain health is encompassing all domains, cognition, sensory, social, emotional, allowing a person to realize their full potential as a being over the life course. This is the other thing that I'm stressing. Over the life course means brain health suddenly come to your life when you are celebrating 70th birthday or 80th birthday. Brain health should come to your life before you fall in love with your partner, who is going to be your lifetime partner, before you get pregnant. That's when you should think about brain health, about that being who is going to come to life through your biology. So it is, what we are talking about is all these things that I mentioned over the life course, from pre-birth, birth, infancy, early years of life, teenage years, university days, post-university days, the middle age and old age. Until we go to heaven or see death, we need your brain to kick as best as it can, encompassing all these things that I mentioned. That's what we are talking about. And it is within reach for all of us. So, we're going to talk more from today to 22nd of July. The rest of the other slides, a bunch of us were masterminding them over a number of months through international teleconferences. You are basically extracting 10 or 12 the really worthy brains putting these words together, arguing and putting it. So this is what is going to go global on 22nd of July. We argue that every disability that is causing problems in brain can be prevented, treated, and rehabilitated. And it is not a charity. This is a charity, that what we are doing today. Our idea is to generate funds and this and that, but we think this is a human right. This is what makes us who we are, separate from other beings. Although most of you probably love your dogs more than your partner, or more than your children, or the vice versa, your pets are never going to gather at Flory Auditorium to have this sort of symposium. It's just not going to happen. It can only be done by us. That's why we take these things seriously. You might wonder that, well, Tissa, you got us to walk throughout the morning and you are going to be in Channel 7, Channel 10, ABC, this and that. What is it going to achieve? Well, it is going to achieve a hell of a lot. Because community level awareness is basically able to deliver a lot more things than you can imagine. Awareness is key to reduce disability associated with brain disorders, which is basically causing problems for us as a species. The other thing is access. We argue that access to proper care, treatment, and rehabilitation should not be based on the suburb that you live in, or the language that you speak, or the way that you look, or the school that you studied, or the university that you attended. It should be a basic human right. This is what we are advocating and arguing worldwide. For us, for this, we have no barriers. We have members in our committee from Russia, Ukraine, India, China, every nation in the world. And education increases equity for those living with brain disabilities. Take me for an example. I was born in the real bush of Sri Lanka that you probably haven't heard of. But it is education which gave me opportunity to do things that help me as a person to grow, help my immediate family, my village, my town, but I'm now delivering things globally. You can see the dividends of education has no barriers. That's one of the best investment to do. Obviously, advocating brain health as a human right, that applies to everyone, everywhere, without boundaries, is also important. I think we already mentioned about this, so I'll skip this slide. Skip this slide also. I already mentioned to you that the brain disorders are the leading cause of disability worldwide and second leading cause of death. You already know that migraine that we walked today is a leading cause of disability in Australia, costing about $40 billion per year. And you already know that the educating healthcare professionals, as well as educating public, empower individuals to seek care and optimize their brain health and reduce the disability associated with those disorders. You heard from Dina, who is a fabulous neuroscientist that I come across. It's disappointing that we lost her to industry in recent times due to our own faults. And Stephen, enjoying his beautiful music and rest of the other things, and doing everything that he used to do in a different capacity, despite he was given a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. That's within reach of everybody, whether you have a brain disorder or not. So this is a very good slide for you to remember for the rest of the life. I put together 12 points last night that is going to give you the protection that you need. Feel free to take a photo of this, and I was just told that this is being the live telecasted through YouTube worldwide, so this would be permanently recorded in YouTube. So stimulate your brain. You have already done it. Today you met new people. Today you probably ate new things that you probably wouldn't eat on a regular times. Today you decided to wear mind, movement, migraine t-shirts. These are all new things. New things are good things for your brain. It stimulates your brains, and it let some of those connections that you have in your brain to grow. Read non-fiction books. Travel widely when possible. Learn a different culture. Learn a different language. Australia is a fabulous land to live. I work in a hospital which basically cater for 166 countries. Even if I work for United Nations, I couldn't look after people from 166 countries. That's what I do on day in and day out. It has its own headaches, but it has its own benefits also. So stimulate your brain. Be physically active. The get down from one bus stop before, park your car a little bit far, keep walking, pick up dancing. Don't just sit like a couch potato. Keep moving. Movement is good for you. Eat healthy. Try as much as possible eating cooked food, green things, colorful things, complex things, things that take time for you to cook, things that are probably not very tasty, but they're very good for your brain. Breathe clean air. I had the luxury of being a co-author of the poor air quality killing about 13 million people in 2017 that we published in Lancet. That was the first time that we realized that the air that we breathe matters. So Australia is such a lucky country. You have access to free, clean air. So don't smoke. Don't go and spoil that luxury that you have. The air quality that you breathe matters a lot. So breathe the clean air. Stop smoking at the same time. In my book, the safest amount of alcohol is 0. I know that is very un-Australian, but that's the truth. Alcohol is a toxin. If human species to discover us as a species today, alcohol would have no place in it. Because our ancestors discovered alcohol a long time ago, when your son or daughter turn 18, they're going to bring a glass of champagne to the table and make it normal. So, given that we have accepted it, make it very little, don't make it regular, definitely have breaks in between, don't binge drink. There are a lot more other fun things to do rather than relying on alcohol. So stop too much alcohol is the message. Know your numbers. When you go and see your GP, when they say that your blood pressure is good, just ask, what is it, doctor? What's the top one? What's the bottom one? Top one is when your heart is pumping blood throughout the body. That's called systolic blood pressure. Normal is usually 120, 110, 130. Lower the better. Lower the better for your brain. Higher is not good. The lower number is when heart is relaxing, when blood is collecting in the heart. That's a lower number. Obviously, I'm standing because I have normal blood pressure. If I don't have blood pressure, I'm dead or I collapse and I won't talk. So know your numbers. So if the numbers are beyond 140 and 80, that's not good news. If you already have a problem, it would need to be further lower. Say if you had a mini stroke or diabetes or other problems, I would prefer your blood pressure to be on the lower end. So get these numbers, check these numbers and know them. Don't get super anxious on them. Just know the numbers. Knowledge is power, as you know. Same thing goes with blood sugar. When they say blood sugar is normal, just ask what it is. Keep it on the lower end, not on the top end. Improve your cholesterol also. Cholesterol is a little bit complicated. There are good bits, there are bad bits. You need higher amount of good bits and you need lower amount of bad bits. When you are with a doctor, you don't have to be pain with your doctors. All these things take few seconds to ask. You don't have to get a Google translated 150 pages to ask these questions. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you can get these things sorted. Know these numbers and increase your knowledge. Sleep well, definitely better than what I do. The not too much, not too little. Too much sleep is also not good for your brain. Too little sleep is also not good for your brain. Ideal number is somewhere around 7. Make it solid 7, 8 hours of sleep so that you wake up refreshed. Your sleep is really needed for your brain because brain doesn't have any other way of cleaning its gunk. Remember, our brain is at work round the clock. All of you dream. That means your brain is working even when you are sleeping. But proper sleep helps brain to get rid of those gunk that we only realize only during last 10 years or so. Sleep, very important. Protect your head. We had the third patient story to be told today also, but there was a little bit of miscommunication. She is a very well-known AFL player who had concussion and decided to call it a day. I believe she will be on Channel 7 News tonight. She was going to share her story of headaches and how she did not know that if you have migraine, your risk of concussion contributing to further symptoms is actually higher than normal. So protecting your head is very important. Try not to hit your head when you are moving around the kitchen. Try not to fall over when you are walking around. Declutter as much as possible. Pick up something like dancing and other things so that you improve your balancing exercises. So protecting your head is very important. And be friendly to each other. Be the nicest human being that you can be as humanly as possible. We all have a very short stay on this planet. You are not going to take your house with you. You are not going to take you heard the number of citations that I have at the moment, which is sort of crazy, which I never thought, but I can't take any one of those things when I go. I'm sure my children would not frame them and protect them either. So none of these things that we think are really useful and valuable actually has zero value. So live well. Be nice to each other. Be kind to each other. Be helpful to each other. Be compassionate to each other. When you do that, even the most irritable human beings in the world would spare you. They keep attacking you, and when you are not biting them back, they give up, usually. Or they find another way to go about. So don't fight those unnecessary fights that are taking your brain health away. That would give you a lot of social connections. You would be surprised to hear this whole campaign planning time was just under 3 weeks. You would sound that you could be joking. You are running a World Brain Day campaign, massive walk in Melbourne, inviting media and other things with a 3-week lead time. Well, that's the truth. I don't lie. So that is because of the social connections that you have. When you are nice to each other, you establish these unbelievable social connections. Things just become infectious, and there's no superpower that is given to me by God or any other beings. It's within all of you. So just awaken that up. So I spent a little bit of time on that because these are important things for us to learn. You see, the thing is, all these things work only if you practice them. You see, if you go to a cafeteria, let's say 5-star restaurant, you sit in the table, you have a look at the menu, it looks fabulous. If you eat the menu, you don't taste food. You have to wait until food being delivered and you have to eat the food. So if you wanted to get the benefit of these 12 tips, you have to do it. Your parents or your teachers or your partner can't do this for you. You have to do it by yourself. That's the trick. Your doctor can't do this. I can't do this for you. I keep trying to improve myself, and you could do the same. Sometimes some of my patients criticize, oh, this is a thing that mindfulness can fix everything. It may not be able to fix everything, but it can fix almost everything. I lived a reasonably long time in this planet, and I became interested in mindfulness when I was about 11 years of age. Not that I mastered it by any means, but it got me out of a lot more trouble than what you could imagine. I could write 10 or 15 books how I got away with certain things because of these little tricks. Again, you can do a PhD on mindfulness, but it would only work if you really practice mindfulness in your day-to-day life. So you need to not eat the menu, you need to eat the food. I think that's enough from me. Just be interested in brain health, get involved, and hopefully, when our time comes to leave this planet, we can leave a much better world than where we started. Brain is absolutely the most fascinating organ. I tell my children over and over again, if someone pushed me back to year 6 or year 7, I wouldn't change a single thing that I have done from that time to now. Some people ask, would you still choose that rural place to be born? I would say yes. It is the most fabulous place that I have ever been to. Then you might ask, why are you not there? Well, you break a bank because that is where the money is. You love this place because you could do a lot more things from here rather than my rural village. So thank you for your patient listening, and thank you for your support today.
Before next 3 presentation, a quick message. This program is live, at the moment is live telecasted. Anybody to see anywhere in the world, and if you have any your friends, your relatives who want to see it, it's in a YouTube channel, Sri Lanka Morning Show. If you send it to your friends or any of your relatives who like to listen to this program live now, or even after that recorded program, you can log into that YouTube channel, Sri Lanka Morning Show, and listen to this program. And any questions regarding this presentation, as I explained, at the end of these next three presentations, we'll have open forum to discuss those. Thank you.
Right. Speaking next will be Professor Jeanette Tamplin. She's a registered music therapist, lecturer and researcher specializing in neurorehabilitation for people with neurological injuries or conditions. In addition to her role as Associate Professor in Music Therapy at the University of Melbourne, she works as a Senior Music Therapist at the Royal Talbot Rehabilitation Centre, Austin Health and Epworth Hospital. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thanks, everyone. It's great to be here. And I do want to start with an acknowledgement as well that we're meeting on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and any First Nations people here today. I'd also like to acknowledge the really rich contribution of Indigenous knowledges to our understandings of music for healing and connection, and the rich history of dances, songs and stories that have been passed down from generation to generation on these lands. So, this spinning image of the brain shows us how the brain really lights up like a Christmas tree when we're engaging in music. We have really strong neuroscientific evidence now that music activates many different areas across the brain, and this image shows all of these areas that are being activated when we're doing something musical, listening to music or participating in music. The motor system is really sensitive to picking up cues from the auditory system in the brain too. So when we hear music, particularly pulse or rhythm, it kicks straight into the brain's motor system, and I'll show you some examples of how that happens shortly. So music actually can literally change your brain. It changes the wiring in the brain, it changes the connection, and it changes the amount or the size of different areas of the brain. There's been lots of brain scanning studies that have shown increased connection between different areas of the brain from music participation, and also through even listening to music. And the corpus callosum, which is the connecting part of the two hemispheres, has been shown to be larger in musicians when they've scanned their brains. So that increased connectivity between the two hemispheres is something that's been shown to be useful or neuroprotective against neurological impairments later in life. Music participation also causes structural changes in the motor, auditory and visuospatial areas of the brain. And so this increased connectivity and working of the brain has really helpful and really contributes to brain health and prevention of cognitive decline. I've been practicing as a music therapist for about 25 years now, and always been really passionate about working with, very excited about the potentials for using music in rehabilitation and brain health and preventative things that we can do to help people with neurological illness or disease. I've never really looked into or had much experience with migraine though, so I was just doing a little bit of Googling before this presentation and found that we know a lot about how music can reduce pain perception, so on that level music can be helpful for migraine as well. But I've kind of been a bit inspired to do some research in this area now that I know, how much of a massive issue it is, and particularly, the economic ongoing effect of it too for society. But yes, so apparently there's a protein in the brain called interleukin-6 which contributes to the body's defence against illness or injury and increases in migraine patients. And we know that music listening to relaxing music can lower that protein. So that's another factor probably in music's effect in pain management as well. So I'm quite passionate specifically about singing and its effects for brain and body health. Singing provides a really enriched sensory environment. So number one on TISA's list of brain stimulation, this is the perfect thing. Engaging in music is a wonderful way to stimulate your brain, and as I showed you before, that picture of the brain lighting up. It improves our long and short-term memory. It activates pleasure and rewards centres in the brain. It also primes the brain so it's ready for learning, makes it easier to learn and remember things, this concept of metaplasticity. And we've got studies showing that singing can improve not only physical health but also immune function. They've measured salivary IgA immunoglobulin levels and found these increase after singing. It can also be used to rehabilitate singing and speech and language. And as I said, it has these neuroprotective properties against cognitive impairments and warding off age-related decline. Best of all, it's free and anyone can do it. This is a bit of a list of some of the amazing health benefits of music participation. Obviously not an exhaustive list, but definitely supported by lots of research. We know that it can improve posture, improve your breathing, respiratory function, reduce stress and anxiety, improve mood, immune function, the list goes on and on. So in summary, our explorations in science have found us some pretty convincing evidence that music can make us feel good, and it's also good for our health on many levels. It also, as I said, stimulates these pleasure and reward networks in our brain. They don't say sex, drugs and rock and roll for no reason, but it releases these feel-good hormones that regulate memory, attention, executive function, mood and motivation. And when we sing, our brain releases these neurochemicals that make us feel good, make us feel alert, engaged, and also reduce our anxiety and stress. It's also, as a flow-on effect of it being really good for our brain health generally, a fantastic way to help people who are needing to manage neurological disease or disorder. So due to this effect on many different areas of the brain, there's a lot of potential. And it's also great because it's a non-pharmacological type of intervention, and there is very low risk of negative side effects. And the four main modes of music participation have many different benefits. So movement to music is really great for your walking, your gait and your balance. Playing an instrument also works on coordination between both sides of your body, improves your timing coordination, also helps your cognitive function because you're having to think of lots of different things at the same time. Singing's great because you're having to breathe deeper and control your expirations. You have to use more air to sing than when you're speaking. So it's really great for working on speech intelligibility. Also has these wonderful flow-on effects for mood. And listening to music also, there's lots of research that's shown even listening to music can improve people's mood, cognition and quality of life. Rhythmic music has a really amazing effect on movement coordination. So as I said to you before, when you're listening to music, there's a really strong connection in the brain between the auditory system and the motor system. And this is an example of, this slide shows how in conditions where movement is effective, such as Parkinson's, that music can actually bypass these damaged areas of the brain and act as a scaffold or a way to work around the area that's not working in the brain to coordinate movement. And this is based on the physics principle of entrainment, where rhythms unconsciously lock in with one another. So an external rhythm affects someone's internal rhythm. And there's also the basic principle of use it or lose it. So if you are doing more movement, you're likely to get stronger and better at that movement. So the stronger you get in the gym, you work out longer and harder with music that motivates you as well. I just want to play you a really short clip now of the immediate effect that music has for someone with Parkinson's to override that kind of faulty motor pathway in the brain. It's really interesting to know that in this example you'll hear the music, but there's been a study that shows that even with mental singing, so imagining music in your head, can have a similar effect, which is pretty exciting. So this clip will show, you'll see someone with Parkinson's just walking through their house and see how the condition affects the way that they're moving, and then you'll see what happens when they start playing some music. I don't know if it will go. Oh, yeah. Seems magical, right? But it happens. It's a really amazing phenomena. So just to reinforce this idea, music is really a whole brain, whole body experience. I've got a colleague in Poland who did a PhD in music therapy and Parkinson's, and this is just a really short clip of the types of things that she was doing with the patient she was working with to demonstrate it's not just movement in time, but also challenging balance, thinking, planning skills, things like that. Oops, I have to click it Okay, and so not just affecting our movement, but also music has an amazing ability to affect our mood. And probably a lot of you use music in your own daily lives based on how you're feeling and what mood you're in. So we use this principle in music therapy a lot too, and have got lots of research to show the positive effects on depression, anxiety, motivation, cognition, and quality of life. And in terms of singing, I've done lots of research in different areas looking at the therapeutic effects of singing, but we know that singing can improve voice loudness, intelligibility, confidence in communication, swallowing, lots of these types of things, which is particularly important in a condition like Parkinson's, as Stephen was saying. So we've done some research over the years in Parkinson's and looking at singing's effect on communication as well as well-being. We did a study a couple of years ago where we found significant effects on voice loudness, which over the course of Parkinson's tends to get softer and softer. And not only did we reduce that decline, we actually got people's voices louder through this Parkinson singing intervention. But as well as that, we found some really great qualitative feedback on how people felt about participating, that they felt happier, that they learnt about how to use their voice to be louder, they had more confidence. It kind of helped them with the connection, because you're singing in a group, you've got that kind of sense of being in a group as well. So we have done a 12-month trial, clinical trial that I mentioned. Last year we did a telehealth feasibility trial, and the next phase of research that we're planning is a bigger multi-state, multi-site trial where we can explore these effects on a larger scale. So I'm really seeking anyone who's living with Parkinson's or knows someone with Parkinson's that might be wanting to be involved in some co-design work on this research. So you can contact me on that email address there. And I thought maybe to finish, if we have time, I might do a little bit of an interactive and get you all to stand up and get your brains working. So I'm going to get you to stand up now. I'm going to take you through a body percussion exercise. So it's going to challenge your brain and coordination. So I will do it in three small, I'm going to break this up into three sections. So just watch me first. So we're going to go clap, tap, tap, clap. Together. Clap, tap, tap, clap. Okay, one more time. Tap, tap, tap. The next part is slap, slap, stomp. Slap, slap, stomp. Let's put those two things together. Clap, tap, tap, clap. Slap, slap, stomp. Okay, and the last bit is clap, stomp, tap, clap. Clap, stomp, tap. Can we try it all together? Oh, sorry. Start with the clap. Start with the clap. Clap, tap, tap, clap. Slap, slap, stomp. Clap, stomp, tap, clap. Okay, and then we do a bop, bomb. Back in again. And clap, tap, tap, clap. Slap, slap, stomp. Clap, stomp, clap. Let's keep it going. Clap, clap, tap, tap, clap. Slap, slap, stomp. Clap, stomp, tap, tap. And again. Clap, slap, slap, stomp. Clap, stomp, clap, clap. And one more time. Okay, just hold that thought. Now I'm going to really throw you. We're going to sing this song, and then we're going to put the clapping back in with it. So this is a traditional song that I've just changed the words for to reinforce the message that I'm sharing with you today. I'll sing a line, you sing it back to me. Music can heal your body. Together? Music can heal your body. And the second line is the same, but we keep the last note a little bit different. Music can soothe your soul. Music can soothe your soul. And the first line again. Music can change your brain. Music can change your brain. And then all you gotta do is sing. All you gotta do is sing. Let's sing the whole 4 lines together once, and then we're going to put the clapping and tapping back in. If you can't manage it, just clapping time. Just the words. Music can heal your body. Music can soothe your soul. Music can change your brain. All you gotta do is sing. Pause the words, let's just do a quick revision on the body percussion. So it's clap, tap, tap, clap, slap, slap, stomp. Alright. Music can heal your body. Music can soothe your soul. Music can change your brain. much of a whole brain activity this is. That's it from me. Thanks, everyone.
Dr. Dilani Wijeratne is a senior psychiatrist who is formerly the lead psychiatrist of the inpatient unit at Austin Health for 15 years until early 2022. She is the CEO of the Australian Institute of Migraines and is also interested in non-pharmacological intervention in affected disorders, anxiety, and ADHD. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Dilani Wijeratne.
How do you? Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, thank you very much for coming today, and it's wonderful to see you all here supporting Migraine Foundation Australia. Really appreciate it. So my talk today is on brain health and mainly mindfulness. I will go to the. So we heard a bit about brain health from Professor Thiss earlier. The World Health Organization definition of brain health is there. Essentially, it is brain health is not about not just having a brain disorder. It's about keeping optimum brain function going throughout your lifespan. Mental well-being is a big part of brain health, and studies have shown that mindfulness can enhance mental well-being. Okay, so what is mindfulness? Mindfulness has been present for centuries, practiced in Buddhism. I might find the slide here. Sorry, I'm struggling with my glasses and looking up. Yeah, so Professor John Kabat-Zinn from the University of Massachusetts Medical School first popularized mindfulness in late 1970s for use with stress and chronic pain. What he did was he selected a group of patients who suffered from stress and chronic pain, who did not respond to usual Western medicine, and he offered them an 8-week mindfulness program. And what the team found was out of that group, about 2/3 had a positive response and their pain symptoms improved after completing the mindfulness course. So this led him to develop a treatment called mindfulness-based stress reduction program. Professor Kabat-Zinn defined mindfulness as the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment to moment. So the key features are it is about maintaining attention on purpose. It is the deliberate paying of attention. I have to find that slide. I'm going to sprain my neck otherwise. Okay, so it's about deliberate paying of attention to experience as contrasted with autopilot mode, where we act with less than a full awareness of what we are doing. and it's about being in the present moment. Mindfulness emphasizes paying attention to our experiences as it unfolds, moment to moment, as opposed to being caught up in plans or worries about future or thoughts of the past. And it's about paying attention in a non-judgmental manner. Mindfulness encourages you to pay attention to experiences with an attitude of friendliness and curiosity in order to be able to explore it fully, rather than reacting to it with hasty judgments. So, how do we practice mindfulness? First step to practicing mindfulness is to try and incorporate it into day-to-day life. Remind yourself to take notice of your thoughts, your feelings, and your bodily sensations and the world around you. Stand back and watch your thoughts float past like leaves on a stream. You don't react to the thoughts or try to change them. Just observe. Do this with kindness and compassion to ourselves, learning to let go of judgments. It's about putting mind in a different mode, and this takes practice. It's recommended that you practice mindfulness at least 20 minutes every day. It can be helpful to pick a time and make it a habit to practice mindfulness. There are also formal mindfulness practices called mindfulness exercises, and these are best learned through guided practice by listening to a recording or attending to a live practice. With mindfulness exercises, you use a point of focus, often the breath, to learn to train the brain to become more aware of the present more easily. And when you use the breath as the focus, it's called breathing mindfulness. Another popular mindfulness exercise is body scan, where you focus on bodily sensations. Benefits of mindfulness. Studies have shown that mindfulness has many benefits. Mindfulness exercises allow you to be able to identify, tolerate, and reduce difficult, painful thoughts, feelings, and sensations. It gives you back more sense of mastery over our thoughts and feelings, and you learn to let go of those difficult thoughts. Studies have also shown that practicing mindfulness regularly can lead to reduction in stress, improves attention and concentration, gives you a more enriched sensory experience because you are not in the autopilot mode, you're paying more attention to your environment. It improves health, such as immune response, and of course, mindfulness exercises have shown to be effective in treatment of depression, anxiety, and chronic pain. This is a journal article published in JAMA, which they did a study using mindfulness, the 8-week course of mindfulness-based stress reduction with migraine patients, and found that mindfulness-based stress reduction group had improved well-being and quality of life in migraine. So finally, some good resources. There are good websites, mobile apps, and books on mindfulness. Especially the livingwell.org.au website has free mindfulness exercises, audio guided, that you can access. The Buddhist Society of Victoria runs hourly guided meditation online every week, which is really good as well. And the book Mindfulness, A Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World by Professor Mark Williams and Danny Penman is very good. It's an international bestseller, highly recommend it. So thank you.
Right, so next up I'd like to introduce Dr. Dulan Kodikara. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. He is a titled sports and exercise physiotherapist, an academic and a highly skilled clinician with well over 15 years of experience. He's predominantly worked in musculoskeletal and sports physiotherapy. He's a part of the sports science and sports medicine team of Cricket Australia, and he has strong ties with various elite sports. In addition to this, he is an Australian Strength and Conditioning Association Level 1 certified SNC coach. He's become a strong advocate of injury risk minimization and prevention strategies. Please give him a warm welcome. Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon, and thank you for having me this afternoon, and thank you to one and all for joining us today on this worthy cause. And I feel privileged to be the lucky last speaker, because I feel that the ideal platform was set by all the speakers today, so which will make my talk today very easy and smooth sailing, hopefully. So let's move on with the talk. Too far? No. Something not right with the... Oh, yes. It is now. Right. Hopefully the technical glitch is fixed. Yeah. Let's first see why do we need physical activity. So what really counts as physical activity? I'm not going to ask the question from you because I'm mindful of the time constraints we have. So I've put the answer myself. So it is anything that you can do by moving which you feel safe for yourself. And how much do I really have to do? So the answer is as much as possible. So I'll come to specific numbers, even though I'll put up 150 to 300 minutes of moderate activity per week. The recommendation is that if you can do some mild to moderate activity for about 30 minutes, 5 days a week, and 2 days of flexibility activity, anything to do with yoga, tai chi, or stretching, and at least 2 days of strength-based exercises. That means you go into a gym or you get some weights at home and do some kind of weight training program, so which will make that 150 to 300 minutes of mild to moderate activity per week. So how long till you see results? So research shows some benefits on physical activity in connection to brain health are immediate, whereas some benefits are long-term. So let's have a quick look about the immediate benefits of physical activity on brain health, and then some of the long-term benefits of physical activity on brain health. So some of the immediate acute benefits of being involved in physical activity in terms of your brain health is, so it reduces the feeling of state of anxiety. So what can the feeling of anxiety do to your body? It will very likely tense up all your muscles. If some of you who are involved in a desk job, who's sitting down on a computer throughout the whole day, just touch your traps, we say the upper neck muscles, so, and see how tight they would be. Probably they would be rock solid if you're sitting on a computer the whole day because you are in one position. No? Everyone's is good? I doubt, because we've spoken about migraine headaches today, and that's the main topic of the day as well. I see a lot of clients in my clinic who come to me for treatment for tension headaches. So one of the reasons is, main cause is their sedentary postures, that they are bound to sit or stand and do the same task through the day, or else they have to bend down, look down onto something and then do the same task through the day for 7 to 8 hours, sometimes 12 hours or more. So a lot of the times, tension headaches, you see like a lot of people are very, very tight in their postures and the way how they present in the clinic as well. So that can actually in turn lead into you developing anxiety. So why physical activity is important? So probably you would realize that staying active will give you better muscle, bone health, and then help in avoiding stress, anxiety-related symptoms in your life. Also, another immediate benefit is that if you are particularly struggling to find sleep, it will help to improve your sleeping patterns by being involved in physical activity. Then the third thing, which has an immediate benefit of being involved in physical activity, is the improvement in your cognitive function, especially in your memory. I'll come to more details a bit later. And also, physical activity will be very helpful for brain fogging. So what do we mean by brain fogging is that it will help reduce the feeling of lethargy or confused or disorganized kind of thought process going in your brain by being physically active. So coming into some of the long-term benefits. Long-term benefits, again, so yes, we talked about how physical activity would help to reduce anxiety. So long-term benefit is that physical activity will help to reduce the feeling of trait anxiety. So what do we mean by trait anxiety is that, so the feeling of worrying, being anxious, all this, like over a period of time, it will grow into a habit, so that it will become a habituated thing, and then you will most likely find it difficult to get rid of that feeling. So you will need the help of a psychiatrist or some other medical professional to go through therapy and get medication and then deal with the problem. So being physically active for a long time will help you to avoid short-term as well as avoiding long-term problems like trait anxiety. Then in terms of the sleep, again, once you get used to a particular physical activity pattern, it will definitely help you to get into a good sleeping habit as well as getting into a deep sleep pattern in the long term. The third thing is that it improves the executive function, which is the working memory. We all know that, commonly we know that there are two things, the short-term memory and the long-term memory. So people who have brain disorders, Professor Tissa would say more to this, I would believe, and have issues in terms of short-term memory. Some people have issues with long-term memory. But what about the working memory? Working memory is what I'm dealing with right now in this situation. So for example, if my level of physical activity was lower than what was expected, probably I might be thinking that, okay, what is the most appropriate thing to be saying to this audience right now? That is what is called the working memory. So what works at this point of time? So the research says that physical activity helps you to improve that kind of working memory in the long term. And also, as some of the speakers already mentioned before, it helps to reduce the risk of dementia in adult population. So again, I thought it is important that I stress on sedentary behaviors. Most of us are very much bound to sedentary behaviors through work or otherwise. So reducing sedentary behavior is very important. But having said that, you all will agree that we can never bring sedentary behaviors to zero. But what I would like you to do is, just like Tissas mentioned in his talk as well, don't be a couch potato. So unfortunately, with the advancement of technology, with all these tabs, apps, and things like Netflix, Stan, and all these other entertainment modes coming into our lives, we have become more of couch potatoes than ever before. So my only request is don't become a couch potato. Try to stay active as much as you can. Doesn't have to be very complicated process. So just like this mentioned in his talk, so choose walking instead of having to travel on the tram. For example, today, some of us chose to walk to this hall instead of taking the tram, but maybe for various reasons, some of you chose to use the tram instead of walking. So again, those who chose to walk all the way, I would say, good on you, because more physical activity will help you to have better brain health, not only just better brain health, but live longer as well. Recently, in the physical activity guidelines for Americans, they put up this simple diagram. So if you see to my left on the top, you see the red zone. That is the people who would sit most through their day. That increases their mortality rate. That means the death rate is higher in people who sit through most of their day, whereas people who are active, their mortality rate reduces with physical activity. So I put up this very simple diagram so that it gives you a snapshot of the importance of staying physically active that will help with your brain health as well. So in order to be physically active and then have a better brain health, what can you do? So first thing is you need to get your dose right, not your dose of alcohol, just like this mentioned. What I mean by the dose is the happy hormones, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and the endorphins. So if a person is very much physically active, it will naturally help your brain to stimulate more of these happy hormones. Instead, it will give you energy, it will give you a more happy kind of energetic feeling. I think from what Janet has mentioned, you will a happy and a healthy and a longer life. So that's why I said that some of these stuff will be an overlap, but it's good that it set the stage for me to do my talk. What else can you do? I did mention that it is recommended that an individual could do 150 to 300 minutes of moderate physical activity per week. So what you could do is you can do about 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week. You can choose your activity based on your likeness. It can be walking, it can be cycling, swimming, walking your dog, based on your capacity, gardening, or whichever activity you like doing. And then you can choose at least 2 days of muscle strengthening exercises. This particular diagram I've taken from the physical activity guidelines put up by the United Kingdom. So again, they stress on the importance of being involved in different kind of activities. And Janet would be happy to see this. I think dance and music in that last column to your right under the blue tag. So it doesn't mean that you have to be going into a gym, using weights and doing weight training to stay physically active. There are heaps of things that you could be doing, but what you shouldn't be doing is what is being put up in that yellow column. So the sedentary activities, just like we discussed before. So these are the recommendations for able people, and also there are recommendations for people with physical disabilities, how they can still stay physically active. But of course, if someone has a physical disability, they would need to be assessed, they would need to be directed in a proper way that they could have a guided program. So if any one of you are interested in accessing to these resources, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to share them with you so that you can go through more on these resources and get to know more. So these are some of the stuff which can be followed for people with a physical disability if they want to stay active. But of course, they have to be assessed beforehand, then guided on the best suited program for them to stay physically active. Right, how do you get started? The key thing is to find a particular movement or activity that is right for you. Something which is right, something which you can enjoy by doing yourself. So you are the best person to decide on that type of physical activity which would be best suited for you. Some of the simple movement patterns and simple things that you can consider: single leg balance, squats, push-ups, lunges, shoulder shrugs, mountain climbers, and planks. So these things you don't need a gym as such to go and do. You can find 20 minutes. We call it the M-ramp, so as many reps as possible. So you can do 20 minutes, as many reps as possible. Do it as a circuit. So that will give you a daily dose of exercises. What is important though is if you cannot perform one repetition in the correct technique, in the correct form, there's no point in doing that kind of exercise or activity. So make sure that you find the best form, and at least you can perform one repetition in that best form, whichever exercise you are going to perform. So it is not about your ego, it's about working your muscles, bones, and joints. I thought a day before that I must mention about this as well, about the facts and the myths on the recommended daily amount of steps in terms of physical activity. So what is the myth? Until recent times, we all knew that it is recommended that 10,000 steps a day for someone to be in their optimum physical activity level. However, this myth was busted recently, and from a meta-analysis which was conducted recently, the researchers recommend that any person who's 60 years or older could get away by doing 6,000 to 8,000 steps a day, whereas anyone who's below 59 could benefit doing 8,000 to 10,000 steps per day. So they have come up with this recommendation based on age parameters. I reckon that would be more appropriate rather than just sticking with one for all kind of 10,000 steps a day solution in terms of staying physically active. Last but not the least, I thought that I should mention something about the advancement of technology and how you could incorporate technology into your daily activities to stay physically active. So this is a simple app called Google Fit. And what I have highlighted in that red box is, if you could see, I'm not very sure because the font is very small, but if you could see that it records the number of steps you've taken. Only thing you need is a smartwatch and a smartphone and this app installed, which is a free one. This is just an example of a physical activity tracking application, but there are so many free applications that you can download and use to keep a track of your physical activity levels. What is the take-home message? So it's a very simple take-home message. Make physical activity a part of your life during all stages of your life. If you could see the picture clearly, Doesn't matter you are a baby or 100-year-old. So stay active as much as you can. You will live longer. These are some of the resources I have used for my talk, and thank you very much for your patient listening. For some reason, I put this questions slide at the end, which probably would be appropriate, I think, given the fact that everyone's had their speeches done. So I'm not sure about the time, so whether we have time for questions. Thank you very much.
Right, so next up we'll have the open forum, and that'll be led by Dr. Kosala Rupasara and yet again Professor Tissa Wijeratne. Dr. Kosala completed his medical degree in Sri Lanka, then moved to the UK, where he obtained qualifications in general practice. He currently enjoys working in general practice, but he has a special interest in minor surgical procedures, skin cancer surgery, and skin cancer checks. In his spare time, he enjoys listening to music, watching the cricket, and spending time with his wife and kids. I'd now like to welcome both Dr. Kosala and Professor Tissa to lead the open forum.
Thanks, Janita. I didn't expect that introduction. That's all right. Anyway, this is the open forum that you are having now. I think first we'll give the preference to the audience. If you have any questions, you can ask. Then we will decide which of the panel will talk about that.
Kosala, just before we start Q&A session, let's get Professor Campbell to talk a little bit about this long COVID trial that he is co-leading and distribute some flyers.
Thanks very much. I'm conscious that it's been a long session for you. Don Campbell's my name. I'm a Professor of Medicine at Monash, but I'm based at Northern Hospital. I'm working with Tissa. We have a study that we are conducting to determine whether the use of intranasal heparin via spray, when used 3 times a day for 10 days in a household, will reduce the transmission of COVID. We've got funding from the Victorian government to do this study, and we're looking to recruit households where one person has COVID and other people in the house do not as yet have COVID, and we are randomising the household to either take a placebo, normal saline via the spray, or to take the active treatment, which is heparin, to see if we can reduce the rate of transmission within the household and to reduce the time to clear symptoms and the virus from the person who has the condition. You would have thought it would be very easy to recruit people to this sort of study, but in case you haven't noticed it, the world has moved on and thinks that COVID is not a problem anymore, and I'm really looking for you to help us to recruit people. We need 400 families. We currently have 40. The only good thing about that is everybody doing these sorts of studies is having the same difficulty with recruiting people to the trials. The study, I'll give you a flyer and you can scan and get more information, but if you remember, the trial is called the Inherit Study. And if you were to Google Inherit Study, you'll find our study, and what we want you to do is, if you get COVID, call us. If you can spread the word amongst your friends, that will help us to recruit people to this study. What's that got to do with long COVID? We're following people up. We want to see whether the use of the intranasal heparin spray will reduce the risk of long COVID. I could bore you senseless for quite a long time, and I won't do it, but there are sound theoretical reasons why this treatment will work and why we think it's a good idea to use this spray. If we can show that it works, what you'll be doing is when you go to social occasions such as this, or you get on an aeroplane, people would take the heparin spray before that and after they get on the plane, because most of us live in fear of contracting COVID in crowded social situations. So thank you for your indulgence, and thank you, Tissa. And Tissa's leading the long COVID part of the study.
So don't yet. This long COVID bit, I don't want to scare you. We were the first group to publish this in 2020. It looks like 1 in 4 people who get COVID-19 infection seems to be demonstrating some symptom or two of long COVID or post-COVID-19 neurological syndrome as it is. This study would help us to describe this elephant well. So that's the other side benefit. We have ethical approval. For those of you who are accessing this through YouTube from other states, we are sorry that you are not in our state. At this point of time, we can't recruit you to this particular trial. But the government is interested, keenly interested in this area, and I'm sure we will be coming to your state in next phase. For those Victorians from different cultural and linguistically diverse background and European background also, if you do get a COVID-19 infection, we wish you not to, but if you do, just Google Inherit or email any one of us, and we will ensure at no cost you get recruited to this study. Study is done by the solid, decent, ethically approved researchers led by Don, and I am co-partner in crime for this arm, and support us to support you.
Thank you. And to reassure everybody, the study is funded by the Government of Victoria, and it is being led by a group of very good researchers from the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, working with the University of Melbourne, Monash Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and our team at Northern Hospital. And it's approved by the Research Ethics Committee of St Vincent's Hospital. Thank you very much, Tessa.
Thank you. So let's get back to the open forum if you are still not too tired.
Tessa, you mentioned in your talk that it's important to protect your head. You said things like around the kitchen, in the house. I've been a sailor all my life, sailing dinghies, and I often used to get hit by the boom. And I've often wondered whether that's been part of the reason why I may have got Parkinson's in later life. Because I can imagine hitting your head in the kitchen is probably only a minor bump by comparison with getting hit by the boom, for example. And just a thought that has gone through my head, that the importance of protecting your head in terms of prevention of possibly getting Parkinson's in later life.
Absolutely.
I now wear a helmet once I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, because that went through my head. And I think it's important to try and emphasise in a lot of sports where a helmet should be made compulsory as part of the activity, because in sailing it's not.
Yes, Stephen, that's a very good comment. And I'm not sure the Boxing Australia CEO is here. She was going to be here. And the most sporting bodies are very keen on protecting heads of our players, and concussion is a big thing. And we are very passionate and interested in this also, and protecting head is one key factor of promoting brain health. It is tricky because we are a sports-mad bunch of creatures. So we like our sports, and we just need to find that sweet spot where we get the best bits of that and delay the bad bits, or prevent the bad bits as best as we can, and keep learning on the go.
Yeah, thanks. Because I think a lot of people think concussion is a solid bump.
I think Dulan like to comment on that.
Sorry, I just thought I would add something to the question you asked, because it's my area of research as well, because I research on head, neck, facial injuries in cricket, and then looked at introducing the helmets and how helmets would help to make the sport safe. While the point you brought up is very, very important, and then as far as we researchers are concerned, we try to promote safety in terms of having long-term effects of concussion by introducing helmets and other protective equipment. There are so many barriers as well from what we found so far from part of my studies as well. I'll give you a simple example in terms of cricket, like getting people to wear helmets. If you take the Australian national cricket team, until recent times and even now, some of our own, very own players, they are hesitant to wear a neck protector, even after seeing the death of their own colleague, their own best friend, not long ago. So it is a very personal thing as well. So what we are trying to find out is like, so if we implement rigid rules, so what is going to happen to the sport in terms of participation? I reckon that's where the question lies at this stage, because there's on one side there's safety, on the other side there's the participation. Do we want people to give up on the sport just by making rigid rules because they don't like to follow them? So for example, we did a survey that there were people who responded saying that if helmet use is made mandatory in cricket, that they would consider giving up the sport altogether. So yes, cricket is not a dangerous sport compared to some other sports like boxing, AFL, and rugby. But unfortunately, in some of those sports also, the research findings are similar. People do not like to wear headgear because of so many different reasons. Some find it very uncomfortable that they cannot wear it for a longer period of time. Some find it impacts their vision. Some find it impacts their hearing, so many things. Just like I would want to bring you back to a very important point which Sissa mentioned at the beginning of this forum. He said no two people are equal. So that's why I reckon that implementing these kind of policies, procedures and safety measures are hard practically. We can be talking about this for a day or probably a month, but when it comes to implementation, it's a big challenge.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Dula. I think that answered your question. Any more questions? Yes?
This question is about music. Like you were, the talk is like when you listen to relaxing music, your stress is getting reduced and stuff like that. So when you listen to music like death metal rock or heavy metal rock, does it have a negative impact on the brain?
It's a very good question. A lot of the music therapy research says that it's personal preference. So what you find relaxing is not the same as what someone else finds relaxing. Someone may find classical music very relaxing and other people might find it extremely irritating. So it's really about what you find relaxing. They've also done studies, speaking of, heavy metal music, with young babies in utero, preterm babies that have been born, and often we use music to help regulate oxygen levels, heart rate, things like that with that population, and they find that babies whose mothers listen to really heavy metal or quite intense music relax. They have a habitual relaxation to that type of music because their mother has listened to that and found that relaxing, which is quite interesting, and it reinforces that point about it being very much a personal preference, what you find relaxing and what will work for you. And for the same reason, using music to manage pain and, migraine and things like that, it would be very much not a one-size-fits-all, not a prescription of this music will fix you. It's what works for you, and in consultation with a music therapist if you need help as well. Hopefully that answered the question.
I have an addition to that question.
Thank you.
I have an addition to that question. Yes, it is the each individual's preference, but I would like to know what will be the findings on brain function, like in specific areas of the brain. Have you find that any difference between these type of music?
Not personally, I haven't done this type of research myself, and my understanding is that it is still even supported by brain scanning research, that it's not just one type of music. There are obviously elements of music that we can generalise, so music with a slower, more regulated, less sudden changes, these types of things in music work better to lower stimulation and induce a relaxation effect. So you can imagine if you're listening to a quiet piece of music and there's suddenly a loud cymbal crash, that's not going to be very relaxing. But in terms of like generalising with music genres, not so much. It's more about the elements of the music that we know can be relaxing or stimulating.
Thanks, Ines. It's a good question. I think there is probably exercising with the music on probably give both the benefits at the same time. Any other questions?
Thank you so much for all the speakers for giving such interesting knowledge. I just had a question regarding sleep. As Professor Tissa said that he's not having sufficient sleep, and similarly, I'm an architecture student and it's difficult to get proper 7-hour sleep. And usually it is ranging from 3 to 5 hours during exams or submissions. So I just wanted to ask this question, like what is the right or correct way for getting proper mindfulness if you are having imbalanced sleep? Is there a good solution for that?
That is a very difficult question to answer. It is almost like I am having an extramarital affair. My wife doesn't know it, or my husband doesn't know it. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? I guess the answer is there in the question itself. I think my sleep is poor. It is not good for me. That is true. There is crystal clear evidence out there that we need to have a good, decent 7 hours of sleep. That's a fact. I know that I'm almost likely to leave this planet much earlier than I should have just because of that fact. Your other question, if I don't have a solid sleep, how can I practice the mindfulness? It is difficult, but the reason that I'm still alive is I'm trying my best. I think the thing with mindfulness is I am no expert of mindfulness. I think we are all very mindful when we came to this world. We all came with a crystal clear blank sheet in our brain. We did not know black, white, good, bad. Then everyone else started painting us up. I think if we can continue to develop our mind to be like a child, not getting involved in things that are not quite relevant, and to be like our dogs when they're walking, just not bother about rest of the other things in the world, just the exploring what is around and the enjoying what is around as best as possible. I guess even though you may not have had a decent sleep the night before, you would still extract more out of your brain. This is completely and totally not my cup of tea at all. I am equally a primary school student like anyone else in this field, but this is how I try to get by. But we should all aspire to try and get the reasonably decent amount of sleep. I have chosen to take on many things because I seem to enjoy them. That's what is keeping me awake most nights.
So, yes, mindfulness can certainly help with your sleep. Mindfulness, if you can practice mindfulness regularly, it will help reduce stress that in turn affect your sleep. It will help you relax, that will help you sleep. Also, say in exam situations, sometimes you can't sleep because you are ruminating about the exams and worrying, and you can't kind of stop that cycle going. So if you had practiced mindfulness, you learn to not react to those thoughts. You just observe the thoughts and you learn to let go and not hang on to those thoughts. So it's easier to then not get caught up in that rumination, and then that in itself can also help you let go and have some sleep.
Thank you. I think this, as this is said, keeping active and mindful, even sometime when you're not having good sleep, is a good example. Last night, we were in our university dinner dance. We came very late with a very quite active day, and today morning we didn't see him tired. He was just on time here, and then organizing whole this event, and that tells sometimes how we can be using our mind actively. Any other question?
Thank you. I just had two questions. One regarding mindfulness and the other regarding the interaction between brain and other organs. So first with mindfulness, because it's with the mind we go first. So in your presentation, I saw a few things that are sort of overlapping between mindfulness and other modalities like transcendental meditation. And when you spoke about breath control, it just came to my mind, there's something in yoga called vipassana, which is quite similar to that. I understand overlappings are always there, but how would you really, say, cheer for mindfulness and not for other modalities that are similar? I would just ask you to sort of delineate, if you may, mindfulness with transcendental meditation, because they sound really similar. So how are they different?
So my belief is that they're both helpful. So with the mindfulness, so for say formal mindfulness exercises, they are usually incorporated in psychotherapy practice and bit more like formulaic. Whereas meditation is, my understanding is that it's more related to Buddhism. You know, you do reflect on Buddhist concepts during meditation, but meditation itself also helps you relax, helps you not react to thoughts. You know, you're taught to just observe and not react, so you still get the benefits as well. Yeah, with mindfulness exercises, it's incorporated into various different treatment protocols. There's mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. Yeah.
So probably it's easier to do and easier to follow.
Yes, yes, yeah.
As compared to meditation,
yes,
which can.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. This I just had a question for you. So with the brain, there is always a link with other organs. We know of that. As a bone biologist, as someone who does aging work, what are your thoughts on the communication between, say, bone and the brain, the brain-bone axis? We all know that both of them degenerate with age. You have brain degradation and you have, at the same time, bone degradation. And there has been a few findings with the crosstalk, especially the one going in the opposite direction from the bone to the brain, with osteocalcin, which is now known as a molecule that perhaps goes and interacts with the brain, and with aging it has the impact. So can that be used as a modality? By correcting the bone, can we actually correct the brain? Do you think that's sort of a possibility?
That's a fascinating question, Lakshman. Lakshman is a biologist with very much interest, and I think your PhD is in this topic or this area. Brain is obviously connected with every other organ in the body. I had the first-hand experience of learning this in a very hard way when COVID-19 hit us. My hospital was the hardest hit in Australia. We had more than 100 cases on a daily basis when we knew nothing about COVID-19 and brain involvement at that time. So naturally, we published the most at that time, because that's how we bust our stress at that time. So at that time, I learned how brain is intimately connected with anything else happening into the body, because that's what is reacting. In fact, if you hit your foot on a rock as you walk out from here today, it is your brain that is telling you that it is hurting. It is your brain that is encouraging you, taking your foot away. That's how it is connected. To answer your question properly, which one is the chicken, which one is the egg, I absolutely have no clue. But I am happy to say that one of the young neurologists who is doing a PhD on this topic, who just started on this topic, that I am plotting to invite you to co-supervise her with me later on, would be trying to answer this question. So the key question that she's trying to answer is whether the issues that we are seeing in musculoskeletal system, bone and muscles, both originating from central problems or peripheral problems, or combination of things. So that's the first part of the question that she's trying to answer. Second part of the question is trying to develop a few other things. Having listened to Janet's fabulous talk, either I should hire another PhD student or get her to add the third experiment to see what role can music play in that business. It's a fascinating area that intrigued me, but I don't have the answer at this point of time. Hopefully together we can work out with that, with yet another PhD in the coming years.
Thank you, Tissa. Thank you.
Thanks, Tissa. Because of the time restriction we have to limit only for one more question. And after that, the panel is quite happy to talk to you whenever you want, and after finishing the conclusion of today's session, and they will be hanging around and you can talk to them. Anyone for last questions? Okay, then I will hand over mic to Dilmi and Chani to conclude today's program.
Great, so this concludes the program for today. I hope you're all able to gain at least one piece of knowledge from today's talks and are able to apply it to your own lives. We would now like to give a vote of thanks to a few people. Thank you to all participants from today's program who took the time out of their busy lives to come today and contribute to our program. We'd also like to give a vote of appreciation for all people with migraines and their families in particular. Thank you to Dr. Korsha Rupasita, the MC team, the board members of the Migraine Foundation, and NWMM staff, and the Australian Institute of Migraines team. Thank you to the Sri Lanka Morning Show team, Mr. Nimal Alwis and Mrs. Sugita Alwis in particular. Thank you to the Soda Communication team, the fabulous Chris, Oshi, Karen and the team, Channel 7, the Sunday Morning Sunrise team, SBS and Triple Gem Radio. Thank you also to Mr. Cafe Alamo for catering, Fabulous Millie from Flory Reception, Tihin from the Flory IT team, and Siobhan Printers for all the print work. Let this be the beginning of a new era for better migraine care and better brain health here in Australia, as well as globally. Let us aim for a 1 billion step campaign for our future. Stay in touch via our socials, and don't forget to mark your diary for the World Brain Day, which is on the 22nd of July. And it's also going to be celebrated right here in this very place. So we're all looking forward to seeing you here on that day. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Last request